Welcome to the For Peyton podcast. I'm Tami Valentine, and this podcast is about mental health, real life, and the experiences that shape us. I created this podcast in memory of my son Peyton, known to many as Pete, who passed away in December of 2024. Whether you're here for insight, connection, or simply a deeper conversation, I'm just glad you're here. This is For Peyton. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the For Peyton podcast. I am super excited. Today, I have rodeo coach and Western sports announcer Branden Edwards with me, and I am going to let him give a further introduction of himself. So, Branden, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do for work, and
Oh,
everything. Yeah.
perfect. Yeah. First off, thanks for letting me come on and just thanks for everything. So yeah, I work basically completely in the Western sports industry. I say my first full time job, I guess if you call it that, is my wife and I both are coach and assistant coach for the Colorado Mesa University rodeo team. We've been in those positions since about 2018. So we've got to see some real cool growth in about the last 8 years. Oh my God, it's been 8 years that we've done. It's a very unique space. Anybody in the coaching world, especially at the collegiate level, who's not Nick Saban or that level, understands that there's a lot more to it than just getting to coach. There's a lot of uh, bureaucracy. Sounds like a bad word, but in this case, I don't mean it that way. Just lots of we do a lot of fundraising, a lot of community involvement, a lot of work on other things internally through the college that they allow us to be a part of that are really super fun, actually. And then I make a good portion of my living, usually kind of in the summers or winters. So in the winters, I'm almost completely dedicated, basically January through the 1st of March, being a ski joring announcer. I've been really, really blessed to be a part of that. It's an amazing sport. Love it. Highly recommend it to everybody. And then in the summer, kind of what got me into that space was really moving into being a rodeo announcer. So I'd competed for years, loved it. I actually walked away from rodeo for a couple of years to go pursue a music career, and then kind of came back to it, the rodeo space, and then somehow kind of was finally able to make the dots connect between the love for the sport and the love for kind of the performance production, dealing with crowd aspect, and being an announcer. So now we get to literally go all over the country. I think last year I put 38,000 miles on a
Wow.
vehicle, getting to go around, and we've got to be part of some great events. This year was able to do one of the qualifiers for the American. We've done some pro rodeos, and it's been a blast. So, very, very blessed, but as you and I have definitely talked in the past, could be potentially very stressful. A lot of miles, a lot of very unique challenges to that life of being away from home, trying to keep connections with family and stuff. But, um, yeah, all in all, I tell everybody, yeah, it's tough, but obviously it's not tough enough that we've decided to change yet. So we're still doing it.
That's the way it goes, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Well, just so everybody, our listeners know, I actually met Branden. I've been the president of a nonprofit organization I was for 9 years. Last year was my last year, but
Thanks
we
for making me
want.
sad now. Appreciate that.
I know, I know. I'm a little sad about it too. I'm kind of missing it actually.
You'll come
But
back.
on that weekend, it's crazy. We draw this huge crowd to our little tiny community, and we put on two rodeos and a demolition derby. And Branden agreed to be our announcer for that and came in and did a stellar job. Like
Oh,
immediately,
thank
the
you.
community, the spectators, the contestants, everybody loved him. We threw him in baptism by fire with the demolition derby. That was a wild ride. It's
That was
still
awesome.
wild,
It's still great.
but he just dove in and kept up and knew what was going on. When he talks about like being, a Western sports announcer, he can do anything, like literally anything. I
Oh,
would love to hear just a little bit. And it's one of those
mhm,
things I've always read, but I've never said out
yeah,
loud. But this Gajorning, did I say that
yeah.
right?
Ski touring, yep.
Yeah, so I see it, I watch it, I love it, but I just haven't said it out loud. So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit more about that sport. I think a lot of our listeners would like to know. Yeah, just share with us.
I the first I'm gonna say is no matter what I say, it does not do it justice. So please come to a local event. There's not as many events on the east slope. Like, there's a couple getting made. There's one in, Estes Park that's a really cool one that I'm actually not a part of, but it's been a really cool event. Some friends of mine do it, but, um, we do one in Ridgeway, we do one in Idaho, we do one in Montana, we do one in Pagosa well, there's Pagosa Springs would probably be the closest one to you. Also, let's see, I'm gonna remember the dates. I think it's the 20th and 21st, there's gonna be one in Pagosa Springs.
Okay.
Um, yeah, January. So it's basically like, I mean, it's a horse with a rider and a rope behind him and a skier or snowboarder just pulling behind. But it has really blown up. It's a great
Yeah.
combination and a great look on a production value for Western sports because you have the love of horses running fast, which is awesome.
Mhm.
And then you also kind of bring in like the hippie ski bum crowd of
Yeah.
skiers as well as this like ranching rodeo culture. And you are finding that there are so many towns that are already dealing with that melding of cultures because you've got all these ski
Mhm.
towns that were originally mining towns and agriculturally based towns. And why not lean into that? Like, why not
Yes.
just kind of lean into that? And it's an amazing group of people that do the sport. It's basically all of the good parts of rodeo that I enjoy are present and well in it. The camaraderie, the sportsmanship, the love for the animals, the kind of that thought process of you're not competing against somebody else, you're competing against the clock and the conditions and,
Mhm.
you know, a volunteer attitude that there's no single race that we put on of all the ones we do all year that 3 or 4 people that put on another race don't like come in 3 days early and start helping those people. You know, it's very just community based. Um, and it's a great way to showcase a lot of awesome parts of our industry. So, yeah, whatever you do, go to one. Pagosa
Yeah.
Springs, Leadville has an epic one down the main street that's 78, I think 79 years wrong. Sorry, Duffy, if I get that wrong, he'll probably see this and let me know. But man, it's fun. It is
Yeah.
so fun.
It looks like because I grew up, of course, ranching, riding, rodeoing, but I also love to ski. I'm not great at it. I'm I'm better in my mind than I am in reality, but the
Oh,
combination of the 2 sports, like,
yeah,
bring it on. I and what a cool thing. So,
yeah,
yeah, very, very Western and recreational all at the same time, and,
yep,
like, a combination of 2 of my favorite worlds, so that's
yeah.
awesome.
They're great.
Well, I'm curious, Brandon, just tell me because you do a lot of things. What does, like, just a normal day look like for you, if there is such a thing as a normal day?
Kinda completely depends on what part of the season we're at. Um, like right now, we just got back from 11 days in Casper, Wyoming, where we were doing the whole hotel living, doing everything from putting on a TV show to interviews with students where I was actually kind of getting to really actually do two things at the same time. One, we took a student up to the college national finals who qualified this year, and then while I'm there, I also serve on the national board for the National Intercollegiate Rodeo Association. So we had board meetings, everything from all the nice boring stuff that you got to go about in board meetings that's actually
Right,
super important, and we have a great crew to rodeo production, event production, fundraising while we're there. We do a lot of stuff like Since Jeans and Shirts does a really cool style show. We go and help with that and be a part of it. So, um, yeah, that's pretty much the life that we live right now. And then, come back and we get about 2 days in town. And, this morning, I guess last night, crack out of the car, start unloading dirty laundry, put as much in the washer at one time as you can. And then work for the daylight you got. And then this morning we were up changing irrigation water and, try to get hay out of the field that had been baled while we were away. And at some point, hopefully getting to kind of ride our own horses and let our kids ride a little bit and then catch up on paperwork and get a chance to do it. And then we're right back out the door. So
I get
during
it.
the summer, we're pretty much a revolving door in and out of our house from Wednesday through Sunday. We might get about 2 days in the house. Sometimes we don't when we're going out and we go to some national events recruiting. During the school year, it's a little more structured. When we get students in for the rodeo team part of it, and we're really working on that, we'll have some specific office hours that we get to come in, and then we'll run practices in the morning and the afternoon at whatever different times we do, and then have a little more of a, I guess, a set schedule around
Mm,
picking up kids from school and
yeah.
um, kind of the normal 9 to 5 stuff, but just a little bit longer day. Usually, we get done practicing about 8 o'clock or something like that.
So you're busy. Year round,
Yeah.
24/7, always going.
Yes. Running, running, running.
In all of these areas, and maybe it's kinda shows up differently, but in, like, different areas of your life, but where do you feel like you're seeing people struggle the most? Or what are they struggling the most with?
I think the biggest struggle I see people deal with is their perception of their perception. And I
Mm,
see that in this way for kind of in two different places. Anybody that I deal with on the production side, doing events or being kind of a face forward to a crowd, is always hyper concerned with the eyes that are upon them and the look that is
mm,
upon them. Sometimes that is easy to control in a professional sense because you can bring in a media team and you can do a lot to help yourself advertise. But then when you get to the day of and the event and something goes wrong, you get very worked up about how that
mhm,
looks because you want it to be a positive reflection on the effort, the work, and everything that actually went into the process. The
mm,
same thing I would really say goes for a lot of the student athletes that I get to work around is I actually see students that don't know yet in their lives how to put forward the proper attitude that they are feeling, or to identify those emotions, to control those emotions, to channel those emotions, if that's right.
mhm,
And I
mhm.
want to tell everybody as we're having this conversation, I have no training in the space of mental health. I don't ever consider myself an expert. I'm probably the furthest from that. But I see a lot of students that when they practice, for example, or when they go compete, something goes wrong, and then they don't know how they're supposed to react to that because
Mm,
they're obviously frustrated. Obviously, it wasn't the plan, and you have this desire as a human, and I went through it too in my competing days, to want to tell the world, "Hey, I understand that was not my best job. I'm not saying I'm okay with that. I'm obviously frustrated." And yet sometimes the pendulum swings too much, and you get students that almost feel like they have to then beat themselves up,
mm,
be very negative towards themselves, as almost, at least it was for me, a self-defense mechanism. The old, you can't tear me down better than I can tear myself down. And
right.
so you get some students sometimes that they wanna be so hard on themselves because in my opinion, as an observer, looks way more like they are trying to defend themselves against actual criticism or defend themselves
Mm,
against actual um, reprimand or something, even from a coach's
right,
side, because well, no, I'm being harder on myself than you could ever be as a coach, and it's hard to get them to understand that yes, you're being harder on yourself, but you're not being constructive. And
right,
so,
right.
if I tell you something, it's not me telling you something because I want you to feel bad. It's I'm telling you something because I want to help you identify it and we can fix it. We can work on it. We can go through it. Your perception right now is that you need to show the world that you're also mad. And so that you can't let anybody say, well, obviously that's your best job because you're happy with it or you're okay with it or you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite side, I really actually have seen a lot, like again on the pendulum swing of then when things go right, they're terrified to actually celebrate it
Ooh,
because
yeah,
if they
that's true.
celebrate it, then somebody else is going to come back and they're afraid is going to tear them down for a previous endeavor, and that's the whole athlete mentality, rah rah rah. You're only as good as your last run, or one at a time, one at a time. Well, they won't let that one at a time actually be a good time.
Right.
So the sometimes in that case, you see kind of the emotional drag of it that they
Mhm,
don't get to be excited about it, or they don't get to feel like they're actually, going. The other is just, my pastor at church calls it the paradox of progress that you see
mhm,
people have is anytime you're working towards something, the better you're getting at something, the better and the more clearly you're able to see how the experts or the people that are the next level in that space are better than you because you can now
mhm.
identify things that you could have never done. Anytime you're in a competitive space as an athlete, that's a nightmare
Yeah,
because all of a sudden you're terrified to wake up one day and be like, man, I'm improving. This is
right,
awesome. And then you look up and you realize, like, I didn't realize how good that dude was because I just knew he was better than me. But
right,
I'm like, I've improved this much and he's still this much better than me. Oh my God, I suck because I'm not doing this thing and this thing and this thing. But you didn't even know what those two things were,
yeah,
2 years ago.
Right.
So that would be my
I
challenges for a lot of my students that I see.
I love your take on that. I first of all just love the take on the defensiveness that comes with like the self-criticism. And it's not constructive criticism usually. And that's where
No.
coaches come in. That's where coaches can come in and like a coach doesn't want their athletes to get worse. They don't want them to stay
Right.
down. Like so we come at things like with the approach of I'm here to help you, but we don't always take that approach with ourselves. Our approach to our own perception is usually defensiveness, criticism, worried about reputation, perception. And that's not always like a coach's perspective of us. And so learning how to kind of silence our own voice and be open to what somebody who's really invested in our well-being, what they have to
Yeah.
offer. I love
And
that.
it's a struggle as a coach in that sense because, um, God, how do I put this the right way without putting words in my wife's mouth? Um, my wife is one of the most positive, energetic people in the world. Like in my mind, obviously she could have done whatever she wanted in life, but she's like the dream that you want for somebody's, a teacher and a coach in the sense that very, very building. She has this innate ability to um build you up, build you up, build you up. I mean, people walk out of her sessions feeling like they could just run through a brick wall,
Mhm.
be totally
Yeah.
calm. And there are times that our styles very much conflict when we're
Mm.
in the practice pen because I will I will see a mistake being made that's a genuine mistake, and she'll see the positive, and she'll want
Mhm.
to very much emphasize the positive, and I'll want to say, "Hey, okay, I don't want this bad thing to become a habit. Let's talk about this." And we actually that's a big struggle between her and I sometimes in the practice pit is being able to find that balance of like, okay, who gets to have the conversation because we can't really have it at the same time unless we're really being clear to a student about like really really good, okay, we need to change this, you kind of got to be really really clear about it. um and her overall attitude towards everything uplifts a practice incredibly. And I worry sometimes I catch myself being really self-conscious of like, okay, like I don't want to disrupt that positive attitude, so there's times I catch myself not saying the critical part to that,
Mhm.
and then have to kind of go back later and be like, you know what? No, we really needed to talk about that. Like we really did
Yeah.
need to talk about that because we needed to identify an issue that was there.
Right.
That would probably be I don't know what the opposite of of a superpower is, but whatever the opposite of a superpower is in my entire life, it is timing. Knowing
Mm.
in
Mm.
a constructive level of a student or somebody even in your life of when are you supposed to bring up the negative, but do it in the best way possible so that
Right.
you have the ability to improve upon it.
Yeah. I love that. You can't like, you have to have that good balance of both. It's kind of a Ted Lasso, Coach Beard type of balance if you're a Ted Lasso fan.
I'm a
But
super Ted Lasso. I had
yeah.
every episode,
Yes.
every episode.
Yeah, and I love that his whole coaching team kind of brings all of the coaching elements
And
because, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of great
I'm the
that he
Roy.
offers.
I'm definitely at times I'm the Roy.
Yeah, yes.
I would just want to be grumpy and say everything in little short sentences
Yes.
and
Yeah.
have it
Yeah.
really hit home.
Yeah, so you kinda need both, and I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, has changed the most in your field of coaching or even in the world of rodeo announcing, whatever environment you wanna talk about, but what changes are you seeing happening the quickest and what's changing the most?
I think actually call it mm, in rodeo announcing, we're actually finding some grace and a forced variety. And I say that because about 2020, when everything went down and the Cowboy Channel, for example, one of the greatest inventions ever known to Western sports.
Mhm.
God bless them for creating that because we were able to get rodeo to people that have never seen it and
Right,
to keep it more
right.
accessible. But us as announcers and stuff, we got really hyper aware in about that first year and a half, 2 year status. Like if a comedian would go to a comedy club and do a set for 90 days, okay?
Mhm,
It's the same set. Maybe they're working through some material, maybe they're changing some jokes, okay?
mhm.
As an announcer, being honest, it's a different set in the sense that I'm seeing a different rodeo and I get to talk about different people and different athletes. But I'll be the first to admit, like some of my one-liners, some of the little quips and the sayings that you
Mhm.
get, or even your cadence is the same. I'm the same
Right.
person doing it. And the Cowboy Channel, for the first time ever, people were seeing this same announcer for
Mm.
22 days in a row at Houston because now they could tune in and watch every performance at Houston or at every rodeo that I've done, whatever
Right,
it was.
right.
And there was this wave of hyper criticism that came for about 2 years
Wow. I
because
did
of
not even think of that.
yeah, it was just really because everybody was like, "Oh, that clown said the same jokes." And we're like, "Yeah, dude, I've known the guy. He said the same jokes for 30 years. You
Right,
just only know
right.
it because he only comes to your town for 2 days a year. He comes to your town for 2
Yeah.
days a year and you got to see him. He's a
Right.
great entertainer. You're just seeing it and you're saying he's unoriginal, but no, he knows what jokes work to a crowd that is seeing everything on a one-time basis,
Right.
not that has now seen him for, 22 days in a row. And now we finally actually, I think one, as announcers, funny men, all the entertainers, everybody in the industry have kind of now realized, okay, we can do some things to like break that up a little bit. We can change it. Became aware of a fault.
Right.
Um, but also the industry's grown enough now that I think people are understanding what that is. And so now it's treated a little differently. We've noticed a
Mhm.
big swing back on that. Cause I mean, man, golly, things went crazy for a little while there and happened.
Right.
Um, on the student
Mm.
side, I would definitely say probably the same thing, but in terms of social media, I
Mhm.
can definitely watch from the start of me working with some youth kids. After I was no longer a youth, I think is the big key there because nowadays the generational gap just happens so quickly. Like the
Yes.
the
Yes, it does.
we have a senior graduate student on our team, and we have some freshmen. And one day, the senior graduate student looks at them and goes, "I have never felt older and more disconnected with your reality than hearing you talk right now." And it was because they are using slang and terminology
Mhm.
that have
Mhm.
just whipped around. And I'm like, dude, this is somebody who was telling that same thing to that I was telling the same thing to them 4 years.
Right. Right.
God bless you. Thank you for making me feel like somebody else is in the situation.
Yeah.
But I think stuff like that happens so fast that the kids are hyper aware of now what it means to be on social media, but in a little more positive way. They now
Mhm.
use it as a tool.
Yes.
Um, definitely, I definitely see this next generation being a little more comfortable um, with just putting a lot of stuff out that I would not put out,
Right. Right.
and would be the first person to admit that you know what's the old saying? If social media around where I were in high school, we wouldn't be having this conversation because I'd probably still
Right.
be in jail.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
for desert parties and things that were dumb.
I have a couple of
Um,
fights that would have gone viral.
oh, yeah,
So, yeah, so
absolutely.
glad
So
we
and
didn't
some
have yeah,
yeah,
it would've been
it's just
awful.
all of
Yeah.
the stuff that could have absolutely gone wrong. And I think kids are more aware of it, and they've begun to adapt a healthier relationship with it, at least as
I agree
treating it
with
as a
that.
tool and not as a lifeblood.
Mhm.
And they're able to realize what it is, what it's good for, and what it's not good for.
Right,
Um,
right.
and so I think that's a big thing. I mean, we actually have a couple of kids on our team that they only have one form of social media because they've specifically just said like, I don't need six. They
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a couple others, and I think it's still showing up very much on an individual level, like what each person
Mhm,
wants and how they prioritize it. But as a general rule, I definitely am seeing it, and I'm seeing in our specific niche of students, like we got 30 on the team. In the last 3 years, really like I would almost call it the COVID middle school generation, the kids that were
mhm,
kind of seeing COVID, they they've got an ability lately to stick to their guns a little bit better. They
mhm.
don't
I agree.
wishy-wash. They come
Yeah.
in, and they've actually got the internet kind of down to a science of like, hey, we've been
Mhm.
able to see something and know when it's not true. We've been able to see something and then
Right.
discern what is true or what's being falsified. And this is what I believe, and I'm okay with that. And I'm a little more comfortable in my own skin because of it.
Yes. I agree, I agree. I feel like this younger generation, even my kids that are in their 20s right now, they're not obsessed with social media. They're not obsessed with the internet. Like, they have really clear boundaries on
Mhm.
what give themselves access to and where they cut that off, and I really respect that. I feel like even my generation, we still haven't figured we were like kids in a candy shop when all this came out, the
Oh,
internet and smartphones, like, everything was invented in our lifetime, and we just, like, went a little crazy, but this generation has grown up with it, and so, like, the novelty of it isn't so consuming, and so I feel like they like you said, they have a little better handle on it
yeah,
and kinda know where their boundaries are with it, which I think is some really good news, actually.
very much so.
Yeah,
Very much so. Yeah.
yeah. How do you feel, well, I guess the next question I wanna ask is where do you see, like, mental health problems or issues showing up the most in your different walks of life?
I'm gonna be honest with you that that's probably the hardest question that you could ask me because admittedly, I'm oblivious to it sometimes.
Yeah.
And I think therein, at least for me, is the challenge of I look at some people, like I talked about, students that are really vocal in their emotions, out.
Mhm.
And I think 20 years ago, maybe more, I would have been the first person to tell you that I would tell you that those are the people that didn't have the mental fortitude, the mental resilience because of the way that
Mhm.
they were acting, because they were lashing out. And yet, over probably the last 5 years of my life, I've had some friends and some very close acquaintances go through some mental health struggles, and admittedly, a couple of them unfortunately ending in suicide. Where I just went, where the hell did that come from?
Right. Right.
Like, I mean, um, with anybody, I think you've got a couple of people in your life that you are their inner circle, and maybe with those few people, you can see and you can feel and you can understand what they're going through, just because um y- you're more aware of what they are normally, and so when a
Mhm.
change in their attitude happens, you pick up on it a little quicker. um but again, I mean, I probably wished guys yesterday. I texted 5 or 6 guys yesterday, happy Father's Day, right?
Mhm.
I probably haven't talked to most of those guys in 4 months,
Yeah.
but they're some of the best friends I got in the world. But I I haven't checked in. We get busy. We'll send a text every now and then. Um, I I don't know. I see on the side of mental health, I think the things that come back are typically, I only recognize them at their extremes, when they're extremes and they're visualized. And I think it's really the challenge of that internal battle on the mental
Mm.
health side is how to go about it. And I please bear with me as I say this, because it's going to come out wrong no matter what. Um, I think sometimes the biggest challenge I see in the mental health space is the ability to not deal with things for people, but it's to give them the tools to help them deal with it themselves.
100%.
Because I don't care if you're somebody who is struggling with addiction, alcoholism, or the somebody who looks at their phone too much while they're driving. Okay, let's just
Right.
put the blame right back on me. Right? If my wife's in the car with me, I don't do it because I've got her there. She's a reminder. She's a level of accountability. Sometimes I'll subconsciously do it. But if I'm in the car, god dang, I might be looking at a thing for 5 minutes, then all of a sudden have the conscious recollection of like, hey man, you need to put that, you need to put that down. And in mental health world, I can only assume it's the same, because when somebody's going through a dark time and they're going through a real severe struggle in their head, the last freaking thing you're probably thinking about is, oh man, I need to, get myself around somebody right now who can deal with this. No, you're fighting a demon one on one. Like you're in the middle of a battle in hand to hand mental combat with whatever's coming at you right there.
Right.
Um, so I don't know how I don't know how someone in your space does that. I'm gonna be honest with you. God bless you for it, because um the only comparison I have for it is coaching, in the sense of you can do everything in your power to prepare somebody. You can do everything in your power to try to let somebody know that they have got the emotional backing and the emotional support of somebody behind them. But then there's a time when ultimately they're on their own. I
Right,
can't be in a
right.
box with them. I
Yes,
can't get down on a bull for them. You know, I
right,
can't do any of that
right.
for them. Um, so I don't know. That's the most helpless challenge that anybody on the outside has to anybody on the inside in any industry, any situation, in my opinion.
Well,
I don't know if that answers your question. I went on a pretty big tangent there.
I think it I think it answered it very, very well and very thoroughly. I think that you bring to light, like, a really important issue is that a lot of times people around us are struggling, and we feel guilty when we don't know, right? Like, I lost a family member to suicide. That's been 3 years ago, and, I'm a therapist. No idea he was struggling, and you look back in those situations and you think, "Man, I should have done this, or I should have known, or what did I watch for?" And, I don't think we talk about that piece of it enough. The checking in and the you sometimes you just think, "Well, I don't need to check in with them, they're fine."
Right.
And I think one of the hardest things about the topics of mental health is it's not always like, clear, you can't always see it on another person, you can't always see a struggle, and so you just don't know until sometimes it's too late, and I think that, like, learning to just check in with people who seem okay, who seem to have it all together, sometimes, it they're the ones that need to hear it, but we don't think about it,
Mhm.
so, if anything, like, one thing I'm kinda taking away from your answer to this question is, man, maybe I need to check in on I check in with clients all the time, but what about, like, my people that I see day in and day out in life and don't really
Right.
check in and, like, "How are you doing?" And a lot of times that just starts with the people closest to us, our spouse, our kids, and then extended family, and then neighbors, and I'm not great at checking in, and then I realize later. So I think you answered that piece of it really, really well just in terms of, like, it is hard, and I think you, like, bring some normalcy to the fact that we all feel, even as a therapist, overwhelmed when we don't really know that people are struggling and how to access that. I also love what you said about, it's kind of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink metaphor, right? Like,
Yeah,
there's
it
so
really
much
is.
I've seen that, like, working in addictions all the time, like, they've gotta want it, they've gotta be ready for it, And so, yeah, I think that you answered that really well and, like, really shed some light on, not taking personal ownership over somebody else's struggles. Like, we can do all that we can and help and support and encourage and coach, but they have to want it, and that handoff is really hard sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. Because I always say, hindsight's not really 20/20, because hindsight really lets you just imagine things that you think you saw or
You're
should
right.
have seen, or like, "Oh my
Exactly.
god, was that the clue that I missed?"
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can drive yourself absolutely bonkers, um,
Right. Right.
going that way.
What do you think people, where do you find people, like, where they tend to avoid things? What do you think people are avoiding? Conversations we should be having that we're not having? Issues we should be addressing that we're not? Where do you see that showing up?
I think actually a lot of it is just the daily conversations that are going to be tough.
Mm,
Um, I don't know about you, but there are definitely times, say I've got a rodeo committee that I don't know if they're going to have me back. I'll avoid that phone call, you know? Um, I will give my wife a horrendously passive answer to a question she asks me because I don't want to make the situation
mm,
worse, or I don't want to, raise a conflict. Um, for me, it's because I actually realize that in certain situations I struggle to keep my emotions in check, and I can all of a sudden take a conversation really personally and then not be effective in that conversation if
mm,
it's going a different direction, especially on emotional level for me with a friend or a spouse or somebody who you're very tied to, because obviously that's just emotions are closer to the surface in those places. Um, and I see that a lot in this generation, a lot of this
mhm.
generation. Um, a little bit of a fear. I call it like a fear of rejection. And this
Mhm.
is going to be a weird tangent, but bear with me because I promise you it makes sense. Because it's a very big difference between like a light switch difference in the people that are okay with it and not okay with it. The biggest place I see this come up is scholarships. And
Mm.
again,
Mhm.
it's a long tangent. There are literally millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars in scholarships available out to college kids right now. You have to apply for them. You have to go through a process. Most of it's not too strenuous at all. It's some essays, it's letters of recommendation, some things to collect. And then you have to put those letters in, and then you are ultimately going to get rejected for probably 85% of them. Okay?
Mhm.
But if you do the math on them, the 15% that you get are actually going to make the time you spent much more valuable. I mean, I tell
Yeah.
you, if you got a kid that's working 100, you can work 100 hours at a $20 an hour job, right? You're going to get 2,000 bucks minus taxes. If you spend 100 hours between your senior year of high school and your freshman year of college applying for scholarships, I will personally back up my statement that if you do that and you don't get $2,000 for the scholarships, come to my school. I'll give you the $2,000 for the scholarship.
Right.
I will
Right.
put scholarships out all the time that I get from nonprofit groups here in town. And their response to me will literally be, hey, we didn't have anybody apply to that.
Mhm.
And then I will go full Hulk mode on my team, say words that I'm not supposed to say, and absolutely blow up at my team of, guys, I literally handed this scholarship to you guys. And every one of it, well, I didn't really think I had a chance at it. So I didn't
Hmm.
put, I was like, there's 8 minutes of effort was not enough of mathematical odds for you to do that.
Right.
And it's this fear of that perception back was that I wasn't good enough, I didn't make the cut, whatever, that it's better to not try. Um, and I don't know if that's a generational thing. I guess I maybe it was still a thing in my generation too. My mom wouldn't let that be a thing for me. She'd have beat me to
Right.
death with it.
Right.
No, we weren't going to spend the money on college unless I had the scholarships.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I can tell you right now, $20,000 worth of scholarships in the last year and a half that I have put out in a group text to my team and had nobody apply for it,
Yeah.
uh, except for one girl on our team who we did the math the other day. She graduated this year as a senior. She had $94,000 in scholarships over the course of her
Wow.
college career.
That's amazing.
Right. So,
Yeah.
it's the biggest difference one side or the other, and the only thing I can tie it back to is, I mean, these aren't lazy kids. These are kids who
Right.
are absolutely, they'll
Right.
work their butt off in the practice pen every freaking day. They'll sweat, they'll grind, they'll go to the gym. They're not lazy. Um, but for some reason that um type of feedback or the gamble of that type of feedback,
Mhm.
however that comes, um, they won't do it. They
Right.
they
Right.
won't they won't do it. And maybe it's on the other side that they're convinced that, hey, I have this other process, working out, going to the practice, whatever, that I know is effective, I know works, and I can do a little bit and see a little progress, a little bit and a little
Right.
progress. Maybe that's the mentality on it, and I could be all wrong. But to me, I mean, my joke
Yeah.
is how I was always the ugly one in high school. I had to ask a lot of girls to the dance before I could get one to say yes. So I guess I was used to it.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
see that with a lot of people of like, God, don't be afraid to call. I mean,
Right.
have you ever
Right.
seen the Steve Jobs story on Hewlett Packard? Or have you ever seen it
I
on the internet?
haven't. Uh-uh.
Okay, so Steve Jobs, there's a TikTok about it someplace, but Steve Jobs talks about how when he was 12 years old, he lived in California, and the gentleman that at that time ran Hewlett Packard was actually still just in the phone book. Like Hewlett Packard was a big thing, but celebrityship wasn't a big thing. His name was literally in it. He calls him up at 12 years old and he says, "Hi, I'm Steve Jobs. I'd like to build, I can't remember what it was, build something. Um, do you have any extra parts? Like, do you guys ever throw out any old parts that I could use?" And the guy was like, "No, but I'll give you a job." And literally gave Steve Jobs a job when he was like 12 or 13 years old for the summer, right? And
Uh-huh.
literally, it was just because he called. It was because he put out the
'Cause
little
he
extra
yep.
effort to call and was afraid of just getting, what, somebody's gonna answer the phone and be like, "You little twerp, why would you call this
Right.
number and you don't have any right to do this?"
Right.
Um, so I don't know. I feel that that's something that if I could teach anything, a piece of resilience would be that,
Yeah.
and
I
to go
think I
forward.
think sometimes with the the fear of a negative outcome stops us from doing the thing at all. I was a high school guidance counselor, and I
Right.
ran into the same thing all the time, just getting I'm like, "Guys, it's just free money, like, it's gonna take you 10 minutes to apply, just apply." And
Um,
but I guess I had never really thought of it as, I was like, "Well, I guess they just don't care," you know? But I love that you frame it in this context of there is, like, this fear of rejection, like, what if I do it and then it doesn't?
mhm.
Sometimes it just feels safer to not do the thing at all than to have
Yeah.
to face the rejection or the possibility of, like, getting turned down for it.
Yeah. Rejection, or I think the other, I guess, thing I seem afraid of is of being or putting out an incorrect methodology. Like they have to
Mhm.
admit that
Right.
whatever I just did didn't work, right?
Right, right.
Well, to me as a coach, I look at something going, okay, well, if what we did didn't work, well, great. The old Thomas Edison. Now we know 1,001 ways not to make a light bulb, right?
Right.
So we're closer to our goal, where they don't really see it that way.
It's kind of all
They
or nothing, like,
Yeah, it's either we know this
gotcha.
works or it doesn't work, and we're not really okay with trying.
Yeah,
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 taking the gamble on it. Which again
right.
is really weird to me in the sense of I'm dealing with kids who rodeo and who compete. I'm like, isn't that
Right.
what we do? Like we enter a rodeo, we take the gamble to see what we draw,
Yes,
where we go, what the weather's going to be like when we get there, if our horse is going to work. All of these factors that try as we might, we still don't have 100% control of.
yeah,
So
yeah,
what's the matter? If we go out there with
yeah,
a game plan, we execute the game plan and it doesn't work, then we still have this
right.
knowledge that we know how to put together a game plan. It
Yeah,
wasn't the right one this time.
right, right. I really like that take on that. And I also love what you said about having hard conversations. I feel like that's kind of a lost art. um, we don't have as many hard conversations and we're a lot more gentle, which I feel like maybe the pendulum was really far over here.
Mhm.
Like with our generation, I'm older than you, but like our generation growing up, it was like be tough or be gone, like because I said so type of thing. And then we
Right.
swung it clear over here where like everything is, sorry, I haven't, where everything is like,
Mm.
you know, too kind, too like, we're gonna coddle, we're
Yeah.
gonna everything, and I think now we're trying to find where's that Goldilocks zone of, yeah, we gotta have hard
Right.
conversations, you've gotta be able to hear it and sit with it and receive it, but then if I'm the one starting the hard conversation, I've gotta figure out how to say those hard things and then give you the support to make the change
Right.
that I'm asking you to make, and
Right.
so that's resilience. That's how we teach resilience, and it's
Yeah.
hard 'cause I've always said, like, correction without education is just pointless, but
Right.
correction with education makes all the difference. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm curious, like, I know before we started this recording, talking a little bit about work-life balance, and you were like, "What does that even mean?" I don't even know,
Right.
like, that's like a foreign subject. It really is a tough thing. I feel like, we're definitely, like, at that point in life where we're just hustling all the time. Like, it's just a constant hustle. And in all of that, what would you say is your most ridiculous self-care habit that you have? Do you have one?
I Man. Um,
Or if you could pick something that you
uh,
could go do that would just
depending on the
completely relax
context,
you.
if for me personally, I'll say I get real burned out going on the road,
Uh-huh.
um, sometimes, and I'm a very naturally extroverted introvert. Like,
Mhm,
I
mhm.
am much better at having this conversation, you and me. This is
Yep,
this is my better scenario. I'd love to, like, be able to ask people questions and stuff, but I literally make a living telling people things for 3, 4 hours at a time.
right, right.
Um So when I'm done, um, I just want to go someplace and literally not hear another human being speak.
Amen.
For a whole while, right? Like
Yeah, that's
I
so
I want to
relatable.
go. I need to let the noise drown in my head and like replay the performance of kind of like just almost be able to walk through it and kind of almost go a step by step. Like, okay, I was worried about this in the moment, but you know what? It was okay because we rolled past it and be like, I need to know that maybe this isn't the right place to make this comment, or I can phrase this story arc a little bit better for somebody. And just quiet. like
Yeah. Yes.
just quiet.
Yeah.
Um, that's probably my best. And to do that too, I go and specifically probably eat meals. Like I try to go and not do the fast food thing when I can, because I eat a ton of
Uh-huh.
fast food. Obviously you're driving and going and
Uh-huh.
blah.
Yeah.
Uh, but there's also a lot of times when I am the creepy guy at the bar that I just sit like because I don't want to take up a whole table from a server because I was in the food industry, right? And I hate that. I
Right,
would never do that
right.
to a server where I take a four top
Yeah.
away from a server to go. So I'm going to sit at the bar, but I don't want to talk to the bartender. Like, I'm
Right.
sorry, you're very
Right.
friendly. I'm sure you're a nice person. I want to stare at the baseball game or whatever else is
Mhm.
going on, and I want somebody else to entertain me for a little while. And I
Right.
want to enjoy a good meal, and I want to sit here, and then I want to be able to get up and leave whenever the heck I want to. I don't
Yep.
want to be on somebody else's schedule.
Uh-huh.
That's my definitive probably moment in that. Yeah, that would be really, I think, the closest thing to what you're talking about, that I have. If I have time for it, for me, it's being on the back of a horse,
Yeah. Yeah.
riding colts.
Mm.
Even just getting a rope anymore doesn't have the same effect as just like lots of slow loping on colts because I have to be so focused on that. I
Right.
you kind of tune out the noise a little bit because on a colt you've really got to be a little more attentive and be steady with your hand.
Mhm.
You can't just be passive about it. Um, or any mind-numbingly simple absolute guy project. Um, God, this is like stuffing envelopes. I know this is a really dumb
Yeah.
thing. There's a time when I come back
Like
to my office and I pick the like I save a couple like absolutely meaningless tasks sometimes of organizing or like updating my calendar on the wall. And that is almost therapeutic for me because it is the
Yeah.
same, it's a repetitive task that I don't have to put a lot of thought behind.
You become Jerry on Parks and Rec. Just
Yes.
just
Another good
stuffing
reference.
envelopes.
Another good
Yeah.
reference. I like it.
Yeah, no, I get that, and I love what you said about training colts, like, we'll go ride in the mountains or whatever, but I always tell my husband, like, if I can just get on a young horse, one that I know is not gonna bug me off at my age, like, I'm just like, I can't handle it, but
Yeah.
to, like, just get on and where you're like, you've really got to watch your energy, you've got to be in sync, and it takes you out of, like, the noise of the world around you, it takes you out of the pressure because you're, like, getting in tune with that pressure release, working with that colt, making sure that you're in sync. And so it's very good for the mind and the body.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm very much an alone time person. My favorite part of Pioneer Days is when the derby is over and the lights are still on and everybody's leaving,
Yep.
and there's just a handful of people there and everything is quiet because it's such a loud, noisy weekend and so much pressure and so much answering questions and being here and being there and planning and mapping. And when that is over and everybody, like, contractors are pulling out livestock, derby cars are pulling out,
Mhm.
all the checks are settled, and you just have a minute to go like, whew, like what
Yeah,
that
that
does for the nervous system is amazing.
yeah.
So,
We
yeah.
we put on a big college rodeo, here, and so I get to be kind of in the role that you had for that, which is weird for me because I get to be on that side of it. And I can definitely remember thinking like there was no part of that at the end of the first one that I did. There was no part of it that I felt excited. There was no
Yeah.
part of it that I
Yes.
felt thrilled. But there was damn sure a part at the end of it where I just felt this relief of like,
Yeah.
okay, done.
We did it. We did it. And like, I know that come Monday, there's going to be like all the follow-up stuff and there's
Oh
going to
yeah.
be
Thank you
feedback on
cards and
Facebook, and
yeah,
there's going to be all of that. But for that
yeah,
moment, it's like, whew, we did it. So
yeah.
yeah, it's very good for the nervous system. Yeah.
Yep.
So do you have like a favorite like TV show or series or movie that like just really calms your nervous system?
I've got a couple of almost probably go-to movies. I am actually a huge Ted Lasso fan, so I
Yes.
will admit that that's probably one of the ones that I would put on. By the way, Ted Lasso, if you haven't watched Ted Lasso, one of the greatest TV shows in the world
It
because it
it's
is one of the
amazing.
greatest examples of how you can have comedy and how you can have comedy and kind of roast each other, but
Uh-huh.
never in a negative way, but always in a
Yes.
way that ends up somehow being uplifting to it.
Yes.
And then how you can also deal with all of this conflict and treat it the right way and deal with conflict again in a positive way. If you've not
Yes.
watched Ted
Yes.
Lasso, my God, what are you missing?
100%.
Go watch it.
Yes.
I
100%.
I just literally I'm terrified of them coming back with a third season because I don't think it's or whatever the next season are because I don't think it's going to live up to my memories of it. But
I know, I'm a little worried too, yeah, but
yeah,
excited also.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm a big I'm a nerd. I'm a big documentary guy.
yeah, yeah,
I'll sit and listen to documentaries. Or Moneyball.
nice,
Moneyball with Brad Pitt. It's
nice,
one of my all time favorite movies.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
awesome.
that's one of my go tos.
So Ted Lasso's way up there, and of course, I have, like, mine that I cycle through that's, like, white noise, right? Like, so The
Right.
Office, Parks and Rec, all of that,
Yeah, yeah.
but I am a huge fan of Clarkson's Farm. I don't know if you've watched any of that on Amazon Prime?
Never even heard of that.
Oh my gosh, I think you would like it, honestly.
Okay,
I
I'll have
think you would be a fan.
Carson.
Yes, yeah, Jeremy Clarkson, and he did, like, oh, I can't I the, like now I can't think of it because we're recording, but anyway, he
Wait, is
made
he
all
the
his
guy that did the
money.
car show?
Yes, yes, he made all
Okay,
his
and
money doing that, and then he
it's
went
but it's
back to
him
England.
and his wife's place in, like, England, right?
Yes, and now they're farming, and it is
Okay,
you would appreciate it on so
okay.
many levels. But yeah, I
I'll
love
have
I
to get
love
deeper
Jeremy
into that.
Clarkson,
I've
huge
seen,
fan.
like, a advertisement for it, but I've never gotten deep into it.
Yeah, yeah, so, anyway. Well, I think that, like, that's kind of all, like, the deep dive questions that I have
Mhm.
for you. If there's any advice that you could give to people who might be in and out of these different walks in your life, like all of the areas where you're living your life, what would be like some of your advice or takeaways that you would want them to get from listening to our conversation today?
Um, the first one is something that's helped me a lot in the last couple of years. Um, when I was competing, because I can admit this to you, and I'll admit it to God and everybody here in front of it. It's nothing that nobody doesn't know about me. That if you knew me, um, I was pretty rough on the back of a horse. I was the first person, as I kind of made mention of what I see in some other students, but also very personal on me is that I was somebody who didn't know how to deal with frustrations. You wanted to blame something, so you lashed out. Dang sure jerked on some horses when I shouldn't have, and we'll even tell you that when my wife and I got together and we're getting married, that was even a conflict between us because I was a little rough on one. Um, rough on one, and not with directive or any positive direction.
Mhm.
Not saying that you don't need to be rough on something sometimes. How don't know,
Right.
however you want to phrase
Gotcha.
it.
Gotcha.
Um, for me, I had to turn that part of my brain completely off, and I almost had to go through about a year of competing. And I don't use this word lightly, but I kind of had to go through about a year of competing almost as a psychopath. And I in this way that I had to tell myself, no matter what happens, it does not matter. The
Mm.
goal is not to win. The goal is not to lose. The goal is not to catch. The goal is not to ride. The goal is not to do anything but to walk out of this arena completely calm, stoic, I guess, maybe not calm
Mhm.
internally,
Right,
but
right.
completely calm. That is the goal, to walk out of here. I'm still not good at that. I'm still a very emotional person. I'm a big competitor in that. I get really, really charged up, coaching, yelling. My God, how did you not see that sometimes? And we get that way. But I had to specifically work on that one piece of my life for about a year. After about a year, I had a friend just in a conversation. We were talking, and we were actually talking some scripture and Bible verses, and a concept came up of that in I think it was in the Greek language or Roman language. It was some sermon that we were watching too. That the way their language is structured, that fear isn't the opposite of bravery. Fear is actually the opposite of gratitude. And that if you can
Mm.
be grateful for what you have, that you have in possession, then there's nothing to be afraid of because the chance you've given, is fair, is good, is true, is honest. Um, that's really translated for me in a lot of ways, and something I really, really try to translate to our students. Something I really try to translate to committees that I get to work with. Um, when I talk to my students, I call it my 1% rule. Like, you are the one percenters, meaning we're not the one percenters. We're not the Donald J. Trumps of the world with millions of dollars to spend and rich. we're the 1% of people in the world, maybe less, that get to get up in the morning and put a saddle on a horse and
Mm,
go to a rodeo where other people in the world, like, that's their dream for a one-off moment on a honeymoon, right?
right.
Is to get to saddle a
Right.
horse and go for a dude ride on a trail, and we get to do this every single freaking morning.
Mhm.
Um, and it's gonna feel exhausting, but the concept of, I can't remember the exact quote, but, "Isn't it a blessing to be tired from the work that you once, asked for?"
Right.
And just the gratitude of it that, okay, when I compete and I get frustrated, my wife's healthy, my children are healthy, um, I'm blessed, I've got family, I've got people here that love me, I got the chance to be here, I could afford to enter, I could, that if you just list out 15 things that you're grateful for, I will guarantee you those 15 things are probably going to usurp and overpower any of the things in that moment that you are feeling negative about. And that has been the biggest battle piece to me
Mm,
anytime that I'm really struggling on a God, anything, losing a gig or, when I'm putting on our rodeo, losing you lose a sponsor. You know that is.
right.
You
Right.
have a sponsor that just says, "Hey, I can't do it this year." The first emotion that always hits me is devastation. Oh my God, we're done. We can't. Oh my God, we're not gonna make the bills. Like I can't afford this, and now I can't afford this. And okay, calm down. We're
Right.
grateful. We've got other people. There's going to be other methodologies that we can do to accomplish something similar. Um, I think that's a big one for me. One that I hope people get a chance to, just because I think with gratitude comes such an air of peace sometimes to know what that feels like, and it reminds you what you've got in your life that's good. I heard a sermon while we were driving home from Casper yesterday. Had the headphones in, and it was the old idea of, if you're personally struggling with something, if you were to write that down and put that thing on a piece of paper and put it in a bucket and pass that bucket around to 100 people that you don't know, and then you had the option of keeping your thing or reaching into that bucket and pulling out somebody else's thing that they were struggling with, would you keep the devil you know, or do you have to admit to yourself that maybe that's not as bad of a thing as what could be in that bucket that somebody else is
Right.
dealing with?
Right.
Um, and that's the tough. That was one that really enlightened me because it brought it back on a personal level. Um, And just reminds you again, you don't know what the struggles of anybody are. You don't know what
Right.
demons they're
Right.
dealing with. Ah, God, yeah, I don't know. You just um, I don't know. In your space, my friend, I don't know how you do it. I really really don't, because I don't know how you can just sit there and basically be giving as much as you can and praying that it's enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Well, I will say one of the most motivating things about my job is that most of the time it works.
That's
Which, like, it is tough work, but, like, I actually do get to see people, like, grow and change and heal and recover and find themselves again and find their identity, and the fulfillment of that outweighs everything else about it that's hard. And so I tell people all the time, like, I actually believe in the work that I do because I get to see the results of it. Granted, there's always those really tough cases and not everything ends the way we want it to, and I've had to, like, work through a lot of really hard things, but at the end of the day, the majority of the people that I work with grow and change to a point that it's like, "Oh, yeah, that's what this is all about," and that was totally worth it. So,
right.
yeah. Yeah, so but yeah, I don't wanna take away from what you said, like, I feel like, your final thoughts were so on point and so well said that I don't wanna, like, pull away from that, but, I just wanna ask you, is there anything that you, like, have going on that you'd wanna share or plug or want
Right.
people to know about?
Um, I think, I would love. I mean, if anybody sees this in your area, come out to Pioneer Days and see that, because um more and more, actually, oddly enough, the more and more as I've been progressing in my announcing career, I've been really blessed to do some fun events and to do some bigger events and start getting on a little different stage. And I have really grown an even bigger soft spot for the events that are completely based with the idea of bringing a community together
Mm,
that are completely altruistic in that sense, right? So many
yeah.
of these bigger events, sometimes that you do, it's because they've got this, they want to hit $1 million scholarship fund, and they, and they're great. They do amazing things for
Right.
people. Um, but there's something about, like Manassas Rodeo, for example, and everything, that you watch a town pause, right? Like
Right.
you watch
Right.
a town pause for a second, and you specifically know you're going to see friends there that you haven't seen all year. Things have been
Hmm.
busy. Everybody's been cutting hay and planting and fighting water and, chasing
Right.
irrigation, doing all the things that are 100% in what they do. And guys have been tinkering away in their garages for weeks, at 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's the only time they've probably got a time to work on an engine on a demolition car or something. And it's just a chance to just come together, have a very positive energy from everybody around, just enjoy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
um celebrate a tradition that's not even your tradition. Like, how many people in
Right.
the stands at Manassas every year, they don't rodeo and they don't drive in a demolition derby, but it's tradition to, for you guys, go out there 4 days in advance and set your lawn chairs out so you get the best spot for
Right.
free, right? Like,
Right.
there's just
Exactly.
there's just something of like having this little like momentary thing to look forward to and be a part of, and um yeah, you know.
Yeah.
And
We,
nothing cures sadness like a concession stand hot dog. Okay,
right, right.
let's be
Yeah,
honest.
exactly.
Yeah,
Well, we had a friend tell us one time, he said, "One of the things I love about, like, growing up with Manassas Pioneer Days is as the weekend got closer, you could always be like, 'Maybe I'll ride a bull.'" And, you get, like, these I don't know, like, we've, like, steered away from, like, going, like, PRCA or anything like that just because
don't.
that
I,
hometown
I
vibe of just, like, the craziness of, like, "Oh, I got to see my cousin ride a bull." And we have, like, 2 other big events here in the valley that are PRCA rodeos, and we
Yeah, that are
love them.
great. That are great rodeos. I love
Amazing.
Alamosa and Mona Vista are
Yeah,
awesome, right? By
awesome rodeos, and we're
yeah,
just like, "Well, let's just keep ours to where, like, if this kid decides they wanna get in the wild horse race, they
right,
have that chance," like, let's
right,
just keep it a little bit hometown Western, old school,
right.
and, but yeah, but I'm not on that board, it might change moving forward, but I know it has been one of the great and dreadful things of the summer for me every year for the last 10 years of my life, but I love
Yes,
it, so, yeah,
good.
yeah. Thanks for the plug for Manassas Pioneer Days, like,
Yeah,
that's like a
yeah.
a big
Just
deal.
go out and do. I mean, get all you can tell people is go out and do. I mean,
Yeah,
just say yes and figure it out later sometimes.
exactly,
To
100%.
things like that, especially things like going to a rodeo or a county fair or whatever. I mean, for the $27 that you're going to spend in goodies from a concession stand and a ticket,
Yeah.
like, I promise you, dollar for dollar, that's going to be the best money you'll
It's
spend.
worth it. It's worth it, yeah. So, well, Brandon, I appreciate you taking time to do
Yeah,
this. Like, I just know you do so many things in your life, and I knew you would have like come with such a great perspective and be a great like conversation partner through all of this. So, thank you so much
yeah. No,
for
thank you
everything. And
for
if
letting me
you
in.
think of anything else that you want me to add in later, just let me know, but we should be good. So, thank you.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for spending time with me on the For Peyton podcast. My hope is that this conversation gave you something to think about, something to carry with you, or maybe a reminder that you're not alone. If you'd like to go deeper, you'll find companion episodes and related digital downloads for each topic at valentinecounseling.org. This will help you continue reflecting, learning, and applying what resonates. Until next time, for Pete's sake, take care of yourself and each other. This is for Peyton.